All right, greetings. So, turn up the video speed. I gotta ask you, how do you feel about it? What do you think about it? Because I'm watching this issue, I'm sitting back, grinning ear to ear, bucket of popcorn, watching the show, and I'm loving it. I'm telling you, I'm loving it. I'm watching them pluck off these parasites while the parasites scream, "Parasite lives matter." Where am I going with this? Well, this is Freedom Phil. Like and subscribe. Let's get into it. And hey, turn up the video speed. I've seen this decade after decade where occasionally they do a government shutdown. And I think it was back in what, in the 90s, way back in the 90s when the first one happened. And it happened, and the world kept on chugging along. Thankfully, we have a robust private sector that will just keep on working, will keep on doing its thing regardless. In fact, there's a lot of people, me being a trucker, I can tell you, those times when the government shutdown happens, we loved it because we could just drive right by those DOT scales, and the world just kept on going on. Yeah, it turns out things keep on running without the government constantly in your face. And the things that did shut down, I understand if you're in a tourist town or something like that, and it shuts down and it affects your economy. I get that. That sucks. So maybe we should be less dependent off a massive federal government for your tourism. Wild thought there. Maybe a few volunteers, people that care so much about what happens but never do anything, just like people that never talk about the environment but never pick up one piece of trash off the beach. Just saying. But yeah, this robust system keeps us going. And I know a lot of these types, these bureaucracy types, they would love it if our grocery stores, our gas stations, and everything actually essential to your life were controlled by the government. Because then when they shut down the government, it would affect you. And, these are the same people that, and by the way, both sides, craps and the cons, where they've said, we need to keep spending at a certain thing. Like, it's funny how with the Democrats, you expect them to up the budget every time. That's what they do. But when the tidal shifts change, it goes from high tide to low tide type of situation, because it's like a teeter-totter in this country. Then they start saying, we need to watch the federal budget. Really? Really? You, Mr. and Mrs. Big Spenders? Oh, we need to watch the budget, just like the cons. The cons say it too. So neither one of you are actually really good. It's bureaucracy at all different levels. And I'm loving watching these ticks being pulled off, where they actually sit back and question it. I think the biggest shutdown that you guys ever did was the lockdown. Yeah. When basically a good half of the country was told you can't go to work. I was an essential worker back then. When I choose to work, I drive truck. And I've been all over the country, seen all sorts of people, and the world just kept on chugging along. I was part of the reason that you guys can eat. Even when the system's running good, people like me keep you alive. So when I see this situation where you have these people that are literally making a decent check for doing a half-assed job in the government, and people are actually doing an evaluation and saying, oh, wait, you're basically pretty much useless. We could get rid of 5 useless people and have 1 competent person do your job. I mean, it's almost like that cartoon from Family Guy where he's trying to deliver a pizza and all the band members, whoa, just blocking the street. What was that line? 5 drunks can do the work of 1 man. That's what the government reminds me of. Five drunks can do the work of 1 man. Just saying. And so that lockdown, that was the big wet dream for a lot of you, where basically you could just take the control of the power and say, no, we're going to use the system against you horrifically. And what happened from that? So you gave a bunch of people that would normally work a check, and a lot of them are saying, I'd rather go back to work. And it's funny how many people that said, I'd rather go back to work, and the moment that you started giving them a check, they're like, oh, we're okay. Oh, yeah, I'm scared of the sickness. You see that situation, and you're like, yeah, you basically caused massive inflation. All because the guy you don't like got elected. That's really it. Let's be honest. That was really it. So now that I see this situation where, and I don't know how many of you ever heard of a ghost moose or like a northern animal. Ghost moose is a moose that's covered in like ticks to the point where it changes the color of the animal because it sucks the blood, the vitality. They're a bit paler. And so usually these animals just die. Sometimes, like with a fox or something, they'll tranquilize the animal and then, have the vets remove all the ticks. And it's amazing how the vitality comes back to these animals. We're not having all these parasites live off of them. And that's how I view a lot of government workers. That's really how I view it, because if it's a service that you provide that, if not for the government telling you that we need this or we're forced to have it, it wouldn't exist in the normal world. Why is it there? Why? I can understand some checks and balances. I don't have a problem with that. But it's like there's like no accountability. And then we get into the money. You hear about some of the crap that they were spending money on, like billions of dollars. Like where it's like, oh, we're spending this many millions on a trans play in some country that doesn't believe in that. And by the way, I'd like to point this out. Maybe there's a reason that a lot of countries hate us these days because we come in there and we're trying to change their cultures. So let's say you're in the Middle East and you've existed for thousands of years the way you're doing things. And this is your life, this is your way. And if some of these countries are actually becoming decent, stabilized countries, and then because big dog America comes along and says, you got to do it our way, you got to do it our way. And if you don't, you're, our enemy. Like if you don't sell your oil on our petrodollar, was what we used to use, we're going to come and blow up your country. So then once we get in there, we got to, shove our agenda into your life. Nobody wants that. I mean, in the same way that like First Nations people are like, hey, we don't want your culture totally influencing our kids. Other people, surprised in the rest of the world, don't necessarily want America totally influencing their culture. Yeah, a little, internet inclusion, like where people see things around the world. And, you listen to the dance music, for instance, and our beat, but with their sound. Their words, their sound. You see this in India, for instance. People like that. People like something that's natural and organic. I got nothing against the LGBT community, but let's be honest, when you're trying to shove globo homo all over the world, and people are like, yeah, we don't want that. We really don't. That's not our thing. Why are you trying to force this into our country? And we're spending money on that. Yeah, I'm glad that they're pointing this out, and I'm glad that Americans are pissed off. And I'm also loving watching all these screaming parasites. I'd love to see a counter protest across from the people that are protesting for their government job, where it says, parasite lives matter in big signs. Government bureaucracy is a parasite. Just have a giant tick sucking off some sort of animal, and it says government waste. And then we have a bunch of people holding signs say parasite lives matter. Oh, God, that'd be great. Because that's what it is. And I want to give you an example, a mathematical example, because that's the way I prefer to think in general. Think about it from this perspective. Let's say you got a construction worker making $70K a year. Well, $1 million, which is not a lot of money in the government's perspective, is $70,000. That's like 14 construction workers with, I think, 20,000 remainder. That's 14 construction workers filling potholes, rebuilding bridges. That's just $1 million. You want to know how it gets really crazy? A billion is a million 1,000 times. So 14 times 1,000. For every $1 billion we're not pissing away in some useless crap, why don't you take a look how much we wasted on Ukraine? Why don't we look at how much money we're wasting in random countries for aid? What about crap in this country where you're like, why are we paying for this? Including government workers. For every $1 billion, 14,000 American workers rebuild America. We could do that. We could see a renaissance. And this is kind of a closing thought. The idea of having like bullet trains all over the country, and they talk about how many billions it would cost. We could have that. We could have new power plants. We could have investments in all sorts of things. We could redo the public schools to where kids come out and they have an actual trade before they even leave high school. We could do so much and we could have a balanced budget as well. Even better, we could start paying off the debt in some way. Lower people's taxes a bit. So it's been proven. Go back in history and look at it. You lower taxes a little bit, and then what happens is people inevitably, because people love spending money, they spend more money, which then increases taxes, ironically. So we could actually do that. Plus, if these countries, that don't want to, play fair with us when it comes to tariffs, you want to tariff our products, we'll tariff your products. So you want access, your fancy cars, you want those in this country? Hey, build a factory here. That's a fair thing to say. You should either build a factory or you pay a tariff. One of the two. Yeah, we could see a complete rebuilding of America. We could see a lot of different things that we've always wanted to happen if we just kick the parasites off of us. Yeah, I'm loving it. But really, what's your thoughts on it? I'm interested. So This is Freedom Phil. Like and subscribe. Always turn up the video speed. And why do I always say that? Because I realized I could listen to videos far faster than most people can talk, including myself. I'll turn up my videos to 2 times the speed. So, yeah, y'all have a great day. Take it easy.